Hello again, Project Return. Welcome back. So, today we're going to be doing some painting. What you'll need to begin is some paint. I have red, blue, and yellow. Specifically, Maple Red Light, Ultramarine Blue, and Hansa Yellow Medium. And these are our primary colors. Don't forget, we can mix anything out of these colors. And there's also some things that we haven't talked too much about, and that includes transparency and opacity, how matte or gloss something is, or thin and thick, and if it tints low or high tints, how much the color is going to change. And so this can be a big factor in what colors you use. So just keep that in mind in the future. We'll talk about that some more later. So just using these colors, we'll go ahead and get started. You're also going to need a brush. And right now I just have a bright 10, and this is an acrylic only brush. I have my little green tag on it just to remember, always keep my brushes separate from my oil. You'll also need some paper towels and a palette knife. And palette knife because you guys really need to learn how to use this tool. I mean that. Use it. And the more that you use it, the better off you're going to be at mixing big quantities of paint. And painter's tape. And so what I've used this for at just the moment is I've taken off a little bits of it, rolled it into a little circle as so, and then I pull my paper up and I just put it on the bottom there and smooth it down. And that keeps my palette paper on the table so that when I'm trying to use my palette knife, it's not sliding all around. So let's get started. And so I'm going to show you how we lay out our palette. And we start with our cool colors on the left and our warm colors on the right. And we do this every time we lay out our palette so that we can reference our cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool colors. And then got here is my ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to put a little glob out on my palette paper. It looks very dark on the camera, of course, because I've got a warm corner and a cool corner. So my yellow, Hansa yellow, I'm going to put on the bottom where my warm colors will be. And then I go ahead and grab my red. This isn't the red, almost dropped that. This isn't the red I typically use. I can't open it. There we go. And it's typically not the red I use for mixing or for painting. It's one of my least favorite reds, actually. But not everybody's going to have these kind of paints. It's just what I have at home. And so we'll wipe off our paper. And we have our blue, yellow, red primary colors. And we're going to go ahead and mix those up with our palette knife. And we're going to use the flat of our blade. We're going to grab from our blue and our yellow to make a green. We're going to grab more of our light color. Remember, more of our light color. Because if you put the dark colors in first, you're going to have to use a whole lot of your light value color, your yellow, to change that into a green. So start with your lightest value first and add little bits of that darker color into it. So strap a big old satisfying glob of paint, and see I just wipe the flat of my blade on the paper and it nearly takes all the paint off. And then I'm just going to grab the tiniest little bit, ittiest bittiest bit. Tap that onto my paper. Smear it down a little on the bottom. And then scrape along the sides using the flat of my blade. And then I do this swiping thing. And it's very visually satisfying to see how the color mixes. And it's a lovely green. It's a green yellow, but it's still very, very yellow. It's still very close to that yellow, so we're going to add some more blue. Add some more blue to that. Mix that in. I wasn't 100% sure if I would need all of it, but why not? Just go for it. We'll just go for it. All right, and that made a lovely blue, or whoops, made a lovely green. Wow, it's very pretty. So clean off our palette knife. Sometimes you got to clean the edges off too. Mine edges are kind of gnarly. So that's our green. Our blue and our yellow make green. So now we're going to do our yellow and our red, which is going to make what color? Orange. So let's get again big old globule of our yellow. My favorite red to work with is Pyrrole Red, but it is such a powerful color that you can only use like little itty bitty bits of it, and it goes a long way. But it's such a beautiful red. And this red with the yellow is making a lovely orange. Ah, very satisfying mixing paint. And lovely, lovely. So what we have is our secondary color, the orange. So we'll go ahead and clean off our palette knife and get ready to mix our purple. So which colors make that? Blue and red. And I'm going to start off with red, but I really should have probably started off with blue because the red is very strong and requires less amount of the blue requires more paint to change. So just watch and see how red it stays and how much mixing I have to do, how many times I have to add blue to it. And so if you're mixing at home, start off with your ultramarine blue, your blue color, and add in bits of red to it. As you can see, I'm demonstrating the opposite. And as you can see watching, I add blue in once, twice, still kind of red. Add in blue that final time. Start to finally get a purple that I like, finally. And it's very dark on the screen, so it's hard to tell. It's almost black. So, again, lovely, lovely color. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add some titanium white to my palette. I use this a lot. As you can see, it's all folded up. And I'm going to put some in the very corner of my palette. This is where my white always goes when I lay out my palette. You can lay out your palette differently. Every artist has their way of doing things, but I recommend making sure you have your ritual, your way of doing things. It's a good way of being disciplined. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow as well. I used a lot of that. And let's see. Now we're just going to mix up some tints. So I start, add a little bit of white. We'll speed that up. A little bit of white to that orange makes like a beautiful yellow orange almost. And then that makes a lovely little lime green, a little muted pastel-y green. And so what I'm going to do is quickly sketch out what this will look like as a ball. So we have our coarse shadow, we have our highlight. All right, blend that in a little bit using different directions of my brush. I'm going to give myself a ground color, give myself a shadow. Then I need some reflected light. Notice I'm not cleaning my brush off with water. I'm just dirty brushing. So it makes a mess, but we're not worried about cleanliness at the moment. And so you can clearly see there's a highlight, mid-tone, coarse shadow, reflected light. Now I'm going to do a box. Now remember, the direction that your brush goes can say a lot about the object that you're making. So our instinct when we see something that is like a box, on our page, we think to color it long ways. But if it's actually a cylinder that hasn't been shaded in, we would do it short ways. We would be thinking about it as a rounded object. Same thing here. Notice I have brush strokes going down, brush strokes going away, and then I put on a piece of paper to cover that. So, using the tape I mentioned, the aforementioned tape, a different roll of tape since my desk is a mess, go ahead and trace our shape. Trace blue. Let's put blue on the background. Blue, 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 blue. Blue, 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 blue. No, seriously. We just want to put a background color. We're going to talk more about why we do this, but suffice to say that everything that is colored in your drawing, in your painting, is going to influence the colors that are around it. So your background color is going to influence your foreground object, which will influence your ground object, and so on and so forth. So my brush is very dirty. When you dirty brush, like I do from time to time, typically you do rinse your brush off, but you get it very dry again. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a chalky white moon. Looks gross. Go ahead and clean my brush again as well as I can because it's got so much white on it. Go ahead and lay in a shadow, and nice and thick, and then do my core shadow. I was thinking I would have most of my object be core shadow. And I thought, I gotta give it a table to sit on. And oh, what a lovely green that made. No, it's not awesome. So going over it a little bit, my ground isn't level on that, but we're just playing it around really quick, doing a quick exercise. So when you're doing it yourself, make sure to be good to yourself. Don't be unkind. I always joke, you know how I am. So trying to fix the ground a little bit, I put on some little more chalky yellow, just kind of building up layers over that original drawing. Keeping a tiny little highlight on the right there. Mix up a light little purple pink. And so my circle gets a lot of different stages. And it starts off really good, and then it changes, and then it becomes something different, and then it became too dark, and then it became too light, and didn't have a highlight. And so we really kind of just messed around with it as much as possible. The point is just to have fun when you're painting. You can address these concepts, the highlight mid-tone core shadow reflected light, in painting, but I think you should just think of this as like a little introduction, a little bit playing around from yours truly, making a mess of things like I usually do, and playing around with what brush strokes look like in that shape, what it looks like when that shape interacts with my ground. It would give a cast to it, to the ground. And the only thing that's really missing is the blue, the impact of the blue. I have a little bit of green coming out underneath of that yellow, but not a whole lot. So there we go. Our completed drawing, or painting rather. So thank you for joining me for an introduction to, well, a refresher to painting. And I hope you enjoyed the video, so like this video and subscribe. Meet me in some of my other videos talking about understanding our problems, and talk to you soon.